Let's move on to other news now, where Hamas has handed over the third group of hostages made up of 13 Israelis, 3 Thai nationals and 1 Russian to the Red Cross as part of a Qatar mediated deal between Israel and Hamas. The release of some of the hostages were captured when Hamas fighters rampaged through southern Israel on October 7. Is expected to be mirrored by the Israelis themselves freeing another group of about 39 Palestinian prisoners as of previous days in the truce. Jihan Kaisi is a senior executive of Africa Muslims Agency. She is in Lebanon and joins us now more to talk a little bit more about the humanitarian effort that is underway there. Jihan, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. If you could just start by telling us how long you've been there and with whom you have been collaborating and what you've seen thus far.
First of all, good evening and thanks for having me tonight. As Africa Muslims Agency, we already work in Gaza since 2018. So we already have 4 different teams inside Gaza. And since the first day of war, we intensifying our work there inside Gaza, supporting the families affected by this war, or civilians, women and children, with basic items, food, non-food items, medical supplies. And our teams are still there inside Gaza supporting. Unfortunately, we lost some of our teams there, some of our videographers, but still under all the risk they are facing, they are helping in all areas inside Gaza and Khan Yunis.
It's been called a humanitarian catastrophe, but if you could just be kind enough to break it down for us, to give us a sense of just how bad the situation is. I mean, just listening to what the UN agency says is what is needed when they talk about fuel, for instance. They say the fuel is also needed for machinery to continue to help excavate people who are either trapped or just to retrieve bodies. So it's not just food aid that is needed, but to also help to bring some relief to bodies that may have been buried underneath.
Exactly, and it's hard to find words to describe what's happening in Gaza. I have been a humanitarian since 25 years, and I have been working all over the affected countries. But what's happening in Gaza, it's a real genocide. We know all genocides are inhuman, but when it comes to Gaza, our emotions and hearts are involved in a different way, since we feel and believe it is not only Palestinian sorrow and issue, it is more than this. We feel that every mother, every father, every child is our family. It is the cruelest genocide in a modern history. And what has been happening in Gaza, all these violations of human rights, international law, unfortunately, this is really happening. There's starvation inside Gaza, as you said. People there, there's hospitals got attacked. There's now only one hospital function. It was Shuhada al-Aqsa. We are supporting the hospitals, and we know what's happening inside. We have teams there that they are telling there's no bread, no food, no fuel, no medical supplies. There's even no place to bury this big number of people who died in this war. So that this is a really international crisis. Catastrophe. I don't know what other words we can find to describe the cruelty of what's happening. It's really so harsh and so bad.
And just to also share with those who, while they see visuals of the war from various media, but it's very difficult, I'd imagine, for them to really see and know what is going on. Jihan, I understand about 1.7 million people are internally displaced, about 1 million are housed in tents. But if we talk about the square meterage, or if you could just give us a sense of just how small Gaza is, so people understand. We often talk about it as an enclave, but how densely populated, and the shelling, how then it would be impacting on people. If you could just describe that for us, because as you say, you've had people who are there, and sometimes we see visuals but don't have a really full understanding of what is going on.
Yes, Gaza is very small and it has millions of civilians there. And as you said, 1,700,000 are displaced now after their houses got completely destroyed. We are talking about 15,000 who died there inside Gaza. So Gaza is part of Palestine, and this part is not occupied. So all the Palestinians live there. So it's so crowded, full of women and children. And among these 15,000 people who died, 10,000 are women and children. And it's so hard when we hear our team there talking. One of our teams, her name is Arish, she told me we splitted the family into two parts. Arish, her sister and mother live in a place, her father and two brothers live in another place, because if they got bombed, at least others from the same family will remain alive. So this is really very bad conditions. And there's another one of our teams there. He took two children from his brother, and he gave his brother two other children just in case if they got bombed, the family will remain with others. So this is the cruelest things in modern history that we are facing in Gaza. Gaza has been under war since 16 years, under siege. But what's happening now, recently, it's something that you feel that you are watching a horror movie or something. You don't feel that it's really reality. But what's happening as reality and facts happening there in front of the world, and the war continued. They talk about ceasefire. It's not ceasefire, because today also many civilians were killed, and so there's no safe place in Gaza, as our teams told us.
And we see pictures of much needed aid coming through. Are you able to share with us what the needs of the people are? And as we heard Hamas say that it is hoping that there is an extension of a cessation, which you say is a misnomer, of hostilities, just so that aid can continue to come into Gaza.
Yes, there are tons of trucks that got inside Gaza, but they are covering, we don't say that it's covering a lot, because the need is really huge. As you can see, it's full of destruction. There's no food, there's no basic items there. So those trucks, they are entering, but there's a huge need to enter more trucks. As Africa Muslims Agency, we are preparing 9 trucks now to enter Gaza through Egypt, Rafah border to inside Gaza. And what's the most important need there, Gaza needs everything, but the team told me we need baby formula, because the mothers died leaving babies without anyone to breastfeeding them. So baby formula is one of the basic items that they need. They need food, medical supplies, fuel, bread, drinking water, and winter items, because it's very cold now in Gaza, mainly at night. And last week we were distributing winter clothes for the children, pajamas, only pajamas. And believe me, they told us they did not change what they were wearing for 35 days. So this pajama, it's like made them like they are earning something really very big. It makes them really happy. Simple things make Gaza people happy. And when we ask the children about their dreams, they ask us a piece of bread or milk or t-shirts, something really very simple. But children in Gaza, they never lived their childhood. They are traumatized of what's happening. And one of the orphans that we are sponsoring inside Gaza, her name is Heba. She was in front of the body of her little brother. And the other brother was crying. She told him, stop crying. My brother went to join our father in Jannah, in heaven. So stop crying. This is the traumatized children. They are trying to heal each other with this simple and innocent way.
And I just wanted, just finally, if you could share just a little bit more about some of the people that you've been helping. Just listening to you, it's a generational I don't even have the right words to describe it, to say burden it so minimizes it, but it's a generational curse, dare I say, that, as you say, that children are having to protect other children, and families are splitting up so that the generations can't continue. What do they say about how they see a future, if they even think about a future, having been through some decades of this, some being born into this war?
Exactly. As I said, Gaza has been into this for 18 years. So the children there lived many wars, but this is the cruelest one. So what you expect from this generation? And you feel them, they don't live their childhood. The children there just became adults. They don't live their childhood. They are not like our children, and they teach us big lesson about strength, about resilience, about determination. But still, they are kids. They have the right to live their childhood, their innocence, to go to schools, not to be bombed inside these shelters that they are using as shelters at the schools. UN schools has been attacked. Hospitals are not only used as medical treatment for injured people, but it's also used as shelter, and they are also got bombed. So what I want to say that those generation, all the world has to do something for these children, to protect them, to protect their future, because they are the future of Palestine, and they have the right to get their basic lives of the right of shelter, right of having a dignified life. They don't need a lot. They're just requesting the basics, and it's our duty to protect them.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. Jihan Kaisi, Senior Executive of Africa Muslims Agency in Lebanon, speaking to us about the situation in Gaza.